I open the Bernards Township Committee meeting for December 23rd, 2024. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll read the mayor's opening statement. Adequate notice of this meeting was posted on the bulletin board in the Municipal Building, 1 Collier Lane, Basking Ridge, on the Township website, and emailed to the Bernardsville News, Whippany, the Courier News, Bridgewater, tapinto.net, patch.com, and filed with the Township Clerk on December 18, 2023. Any motion to go into closed session will include that those matters discussed at closed session will be disclosed to the public when such matters are finally determined, and there is no further reason to prohibit the public from disclosure of information relating to such matters. The meeting rules adopted by the Township Committee. No new business will be introduced after 10:30 p.m. Public comment will be accepted at all meetings. Speakers will be limited to 5 minutes each. All meetings will adjourn no later than 11:30 p.m. That brings us to roll call.
Mr. Baumann?
Here.
Ms. Duarte McCarthy?
Here.
Ms. Fields?
Here.
Mr. McNally?
Here.
Mayor Acey?
Here. Moving to executive session.
Resolution 2024-0474, authorizing an executive session meeting of the Township of Bernards Committee to discuss personnel 2025 board appointments.
May I have a motion to temporarily adjourn to executive session?
So moved. Second?
Christy, roll call, please.
Mr. Baumann?
Yes.
Ms. Duarte McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Fields?
Yes.
Mr. McNally?
Yes.
Mayor Acey?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We now resume open session. Christy, any presentations?
None this evening, Mayor.
Any public work session?
None.
Reports?
None this evening.
Correspondence?
None this evening.
That brings us to public comment. Public comment at a Township Committee meeting. Comments are welcome during the public comment period during this meeting on any agenda item or any other matter over which the Township Committee has jurisdiction. However, if an ordinance is listed for its own public hearing on the agenda, please hold your comments for that particular public hearing. The public comment portion of the agenda is not structured as a question and answer session, but offers an opportunity to share your thoughts with the Township Committee. The committee may or may not address those comments during the meeting. However, all comments are considered. To address this body, the speaker must come forward to the microphone and state his or her name and address for the record. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. The clerk will keep time. Please promptly yield the floor when time is called and return to your seat. Your cooperation to these rules of order will ensure an orderly and respectful meeting. I open public comment.
Hi, Tim Engling, 7 Madisonville Road. Does that mean we can't talk about ordinance 2568 during this session? Oh, we can? Okay. Is this on? Okay. I'd like to thank the Township Committee members for all the work that you do for the community. A special thanks to the Township Committee members and Planning Board members that questioned the ordinance's lack of detail and requested the need for expanded review. Saving the Great Swamp, Battle to Defeat the Jetport is a 1-hour documentary about the events, people, and politics behind the struggle to preserve a rural area of New Jersey from a 10,000-acre jetport development. The area is now known as the Great Swamp National Refuge. Bill Westoven, a reporter from the USA Today network, commented on the documentary as follows: "A truly astonishing and entertaining history lesson and timeless cautionary tale for anyone concerned about what big business and government can do when no one is watching." Ordinance 2568 doesn't affect thousands of acres, but a 22-acre lot located in the northwest corner of Bernards Township. I would consider that the location in the shadow of the Great Swamp. And tonight, a part of the community is here to express concerns about what the film industry and our local government intends to do when nobody was watching or no one made aware of. As noted in the Bernards Township 2023 Master Plan, the tract consists of 11 lots. A majority of the tract is forested. The critical habitat data reflects 7 lots with a rank 5, 3 lots with a partial rank 5. A rank 5 describes a habitat patch with federal threatened or endangered species present. There are 2 lots adjacent to land with a rank 3, habitat patch with state threatened species present. The zoning differences between the current R1 and Ordinance 2568 requests are stark in comparison. Impervious coverage of 55% is 40% greater than the current R1 and 15% greater than the maximum for an office complex. The maximum height for an R1 is 35 feet. An office complex is 48. Per the 1212 TAP article, there are 4 sound stages proposed at a maximum height of 65 feet. Other buildings of 48 feet, 35 feet, a community residence of 48, and a potential parking deck of 48 feet. Since there wasn't a plan given, I cannot comment on the proposed density. It seems much more than 1 building per 3 acres. What does a film studio complex look like? I've seen pictures of film studio complexes proposed at Lionsgate in Newark, Project 1988 in Bayonne, and Netflix in Fort Monmouth, all on the internet. They aren't pretty. What are the footprints of the proposed sound stages? 68 feet tall, by what width, by what length? StudioBinder.com, software used in the film industry, defines a soundstage as follows. A soundstage is a building that's used primarily for shooting films. These stages are typically large, warehouse-like buildings. Similar structures that were strongly opposed on Allen Road. 65 feet is 17 feet taller than the proposed warehouse structures on Allen Road. The master plan on page 20 states, land use policies should strive to maintain and enhance community character, protect the integrity of existing neighborhoods, and prevent the intrusion of incompatible new development. The film studio seems to fit the description of incompatible new development. The 55% impervious coverage recommended is in a forested critical habitat area. How is that consistent with the master plan's conservation and open space section, point 18? Promote forest stewardship and cultivate respect for existing trees and neighborhoods. Has the Somerset DEP been contacted regarding potential construction? Has a freshwater wetlands letter of interpretation been requested? There's a lot to go through, but in closing, I'm not here based on misinformation, unfortunate communication, or something scribbled on a bathroom wall. I'm here because after reading Ordinance 2568, reading the master plan, comparing the timelines of other projects that impacted the community, and the lack of transparency, I realized that something smells rotten in Denmark. Thank you.
We are going to maintain order in this room, and clapping is not considered orderly. I'm going to request that we do not clap and that we show proper decorum and respect for those in the room. Thank you. Next.
My name is Sue Trapp. I am residing at 214 North Maple Avenue in what is known as the Historic Coffee House, which is only one of few private residential residences in Bernards Township that is listed on the National Registry. The Edge of Ridge, as our next door app is identified as our neighborhood, has historically been referred to as Madisonville, established in the early 1700s. We still have many of the original houses and structures from the 17 and 1800s. In this part of town, we have the largest concentration of historic homes in Bernards. As per the monument placed by the Daughters of the American Revolution near the intersection of North Maple and Madisonville Road, North Maple is the route George Washington actually marched his troop to Jockey Hollow in 1779 for their winter encampment. Washington would also routinely use this road in and out of Basking Ridge during that winter to meet his generals under the old oak tree that was at the historic Presbyterian Church in downtown Basking Ridge. With the proposed film studio development, the building sizes and setback would become the introductory focus on this historic roadway, which serves as the main artery to our quaint downtown Basking Ridge, rather than the homes that represent our heritage. From a personal perspective, my home will be in the literal shadow of a 65-foot sound studio, as this building is to be closest to the intersection. I worry about the impact of the expected significant construction and equipment being less than 300 feet from my actual house. The ground vibrations could have severe consequences to the foundation, plaster walls, and plaster ceilings, and possibly collapse a 125-year-old stone-lined 25-foot deep well that is on the property. At best, significant repairs would be required on my house. At worst, even after the repairs, my home's equity would plummet, given that an old house requires a special buyer, and then add to that the proximity of a film studio complex and its expected business operations. I would most likely have to sell for only the land value, and the house would then be raised by the next buyer. This is a historic house. I have spent a lot of my own sweat and significant amount of time and money to keep the legacy of this special homestead. I purchased the home from a fifth-generation lineage and did so because I appreciated the privilege of being a caretaker of history, as well as the special feel of this part of town. The area is unique to and outside of Bernards. Of note, I was only made aware of these plans when I received the official notification on 12/12. As usually, I stay away from all the politics and live in my own bubble. I will not make that mistake again. I resent that because of this rush to approval effort, I had to balance time supporting my father's current hospitalization and potentially losing my home investment. I resent the complete lack of details, but yet benefits communicated as factual. There has been no presentation of any documented evidence that these benefits are even achievable and protected, as there are no contractual obligations to require the expectation from either the developer or any subsequent owners of the complex. This has resulted pitting of residents against each other with the unsubstantiated creation of hopes versus the fears and concerns of those of us in the area. I resent that there seems to have been no consideration to the potential precedents this one development and adoption of spot zoning could have on the entire township when other deep-pocketed developers decide to challenge our existing zoning rules. I resent that all stakeholders, except for one special interest, were not given due consideration and invited to the table to raise concerns before our official due process was asked to take action. I probably most resent that I expected more from our elected leadership rather than a rogue one-woman show. Thank you.
Next.
Good evening. My name is Hank Brucker. I'm president of Seal Spout and owner of the property at 50 Allen Road. Also grew up in Basking Ridge here in the 1970s and 80s. We are a manufacturing company. We manufacture pour spouts, most commonly used in the packaging of salt products and dish detergents. These are those aluminum spouts that you pull out with your finger. Mostly, think of a can of Morton salt or Cascade dish detergent. At this location, we produce over 1 million a day. We also build and assemble the packaging equipment that our customers use to insert the spouts. Seal Spout has continuously operated on Allen Road since 1969 after construction of our current building was completed. For over 55 years, we have kept a well-maintained property, paid our taxes, and have operated trouble-free here in Bernards Township with no negative impact on the community. Rather than operating in the future under a pre-existing non-conforming status, I would like to ask the committee for an exemption from Ordinance 2567. Perhaps it could include language such as any use lawfully in existence prior to the passage of the ordinance is exempt from this ordinance. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have either now or moving forward. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen Zublake, and I live at 82 Church Street in Liberty Corner. My son Alexander is 22 years old, and he has autism. I would like to personally thank Mayor Assay for being a tireless advocate to our special needs community. I met Jennifer when I was a member of the PEC board, and I was pitching the township to create work-based learning opportunities for Ridge High School students that were on the spectrum. She helped organize the first Fabric of Bernards and showcase the special needs community. This showcase helped to create awareness of our special needs community and detailed how the PEC has evolved into the fabric of our town. When my son Alex graduated from Ridge High in June of 2024, I was desperately trying to find a competitive wage job for him. I created a video resume of him and posted on Facebook and asked if anyone had any leads to help him get a job. The town responded and was amazing with support. Jennifer reached out to me personally and asked what she could do to help. Alex got a job at Aramark working as a food service worker because Jennifer had reached out to the Board of Education and put in a good word on Alex's behalf. Most recently, Additionally, as a resolution, the mayor recognized local companies that employ disabled adults and companies that support work-based learning as part of Disability Employment Month. Now the mayor has introduced an ordinance that will provide housing for 16 residential units for housing for special needs and provide a facility for workforce training and employment for special needs. This will provide significant tax credits for the town and will give a strong boost to local businesses. Mayor, I would like to thank you for all your hard work, support, and forward thinking when it comes to Basking Ridge and our special needs community. I would strongly encourage the Township Committee to reintroduce the ordinance in January. Thank you all and have a happy holiday.
Hi, I am Lily Yip, and I reside at 39 Sentinel Drive in Basking Ridge. I would like to thank the mayor and all the other township committee members for their dedicated work for all the residents of Berners Township. As a mother of 2 adult children with autism and intellectual and developmental disabilities, IDD, I would like to see the overlay audience for the film studio. Given some other comments, we can work together on making everything that would benefit all the residents. In particular, the workforce development space, the community center, and the 16 housing units, specifically for individuals with IDD, be reintroduced in January of 2025. Currently, my children are on the priority waiting list for the community care program. It's called the CCP, because both my husband, and Wayne Lee, and I are over the age of 55. They are currently 805 and 806 as of June 2024. Usually there is a 10-year wait list for the budget, which allows the funding for the support staff that they will need when we are no longer able to care for them. Once the budget is approved, the actual housing needs to be identified. So having this housing project in the overlay ordinance would benefit greatly for this population. Besides the housing, competitive employment for individuals with IDD is a challenge when they graduate from high school at the age of 21. Some statistics include from the labor force participation rate. People with disabilities are at a 24.2%. People without disabilities is 68.7%. And then the unemployment rate, people with disabilities is 8.2, and people without disabilities is 4.3. And in New Jersey, the employment rate is 14% for people with disabilities. Having the workforce development space would help with getting individuals trained in areas where they show interest. Other communities which have programs set up are County College of Morris in Randolph and a new program, Skills Up, based in Woodbridge. This space is going to be using an old parochial school that has been refurbished. I strongly support this initiative in a way that will work for all residents, and I thank you for your time. Happy holidays.
Next.
Good evening, Deborah DeWitt, Spencer Road. I'm standing here before you because I wanted to speak on the proposal to develop a piece of the Verizon property to provide housing for special needs, a workforce development center, a community center, and yes, a film studio. I think I can speak for the majority in that no one really wants to see this town more developed than it already is. But that's not reality, at least not a reality that the state of New Jersey supports in its affordable housing mandate. Don't get me wrong, I support affordable housing. I think we need more housing and support for our special needs residents. I think we need more housing and support for our senior residents. And I think we need more housing and support for our homeless veterans. As of right now, the DCA has told us that we need to provide for 218 units of affordable housing in the next 10 years. Since we don't own much of any land and we aren't developers, we need to work on plans with private landowners and developers to come up with a means to achieve that number. As a resident, I believe our goal should be to support development where it helps the needy, like special needs, seniors, and veterans. Ideally, development that would cause the least impact to our schools, traffic, infrastructure like sewage and roads, emergency services, and the environment. And I don't want to hear anything about a pilot agreement. I was able to read the mayor's single topic review paper before it was taken down. I think it very clearly describes the timeline-wise and benefits to our town, and I can agree that the timing of presenting this proposal was less than ideal, though the same exact thing was done this time last year with the Westgate Center, the village project. I think the proposal for the Verizon property is very promising. It addresses affordable housing for special needs, and it takes it a step further by introducing a workforce development center and a community center for the town. And the film studio finances it all, and we get another rateable. This project would provide 32 credits of affordable housing toward the 218 number. How is that going to be made up? With a 175-unit rental apartment complex to subsidize 32 units or 32 credits of affordable housing? Is that better than a film studio? I want to know more. I want to see a visual drawing of how the project will look. I want to see how some of my concerns will be addressed, like tree protection, wetlands, and sightlines. And I want to take the next step. I just hope that we didn't miss the window or send a signal that we either aren't interested or don't want to move forward in a timely fashion. Too bad that couldn't have started tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Judy Whitaker, and I live at 11 Castle Way in Basking Ridge. I just wanted to say that I'd be interested in learning more about the film studio, the campus overlay, and the housing for special needs community. I will say that as part of the special needs community, there is a desperate need for our children and young adults to have the opportunity for workplace learning, employment, and a place to live. It would be very unfortunate if we were denied this chance without even knowing the specifics of the overall proposal. I would also like to add that the special needs workforce development and residents, in my view, is a real need and not just a way to push through an agenda for a film studio. I would like to thank Mayor Assay for being an advocate for the special needs community long before the time of this proposal. She has recognized the businesses in town who have hired individuals with special needs and that participated in the workforce learning program. She even reached out to the mayor of Burnsville to do the same. When working at an event at the high school with special needs volunteers working concessions, Mayor Assay made it a point to engage and interact with all the volunteers. She sees us, she values us, and recognizes the group as an important part of our diverse community. Thank you.
My name is Sherry Nelson. I live at 195 Smoke Rise Road. I have lived in Basking Ridge for 18 years. I am the mother of an adult who is developmentally disabled. I am disappointed that we will not have a public hearing tonight to learn more about the opportunity to build a community campus for local students and adults with developmental disabilities that would have been funded by the developer of the film studio project. And based on the attendance we have here tonight, I think we could have had that hearing. We desperately need to find creative ways to build housing as well as provide job training and employment opportunities for these special adults. I know that some progress has been made with local businesses and even township employment opportunities, but more is needed, a lot more. You know the saying, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems? That is never more true than for a parent of a disabled adult child. As our children get older, the behaviors become more challenging. The social skills deficits become more prominent, while the inclusion opportunities decline, and these adults become more and more isolated. I was co-president of the Bernard's Parents for Exceptional Children for 4 years. I served on their executive board for several years. During that time, I got to know most of the families that live in town who have a child with a disability, and I understand the challenges that they face every single day. Here is some data to consider. In Bernards Township schools, we currently have 202 students in self-contained special education programs. These are the ones that need this when they become adults. They're not going to college. They're not going off to regular jobs. Those numbers in our district do not even include the preschool students. I can't tell their category based on the data I was able to find. So 202, starting from kindergarten. Ridge alone has 66 students in the autism and vocational studies programs who will be transitioning to adult programs over the next 3 to 6 years. And I personally know dozens of disabled adults in town who have already aged out of the school system. Currently, our town does not even provide any recreational programs for disabled adults. We are told to go to the county. Well, there are county programs, but they are limited in availability. And even if you can get a spot, these programs are not close by, and they are only offered in late evenings, which is not really a good time for anyone, but especially this population. There's no reason that our town, with its wide variety of recreational opportunities, does not offer a single thing, not one offering, you can check the website, for an adult with a disability. Why can't we have yoga or art or music for these adults? There was a rec department survey in 2021 that did not ask a single question about recreation for our special needs population. We can do better than that. I have to go outside of our town to even find volunteer opportunities for my son. Parents like me have to piece together these opportunities for our young adults. There is a huge need in our community, and a group home can't just be built anywhere, and these training and employment opportunities will not just magically appear. We need for our leaders to step up and help us plan them together. On a much more personal note, I have been very saddened by the attacks against our mayor. I met Jennifer 12 years ago. At that time, I was co-president of the PEC, and her son Brett was a PEC mentor, and he was working with disabled students when he was only in 7th grade. And his DI team wanted to plan something special for the PEC kids. They planned a Super Bowl party at the library. I remember how much my kids enjoyed it. I was so impressed with Brett. My son was only 10 years old, and at that time, Jennifer and her family were already making a difference in his life. This was almost a decade before Jennifer ever even ran for office. That is how long that I have known that Jennifer was interested in helping the special needs community and that she was raising her children to do the same. That is her character. That is her motivation. I have been appalled by the lies and accusations I have read and heard attacking her integrity. Why are people attacking their neighbors? Just because we want to hold a public hearing and we want full consideration of a project that would greatly benefit disabled adults in our community. My understanding is the main complaint was the timing, as we were too close to the holidays or this was happening too fast. So my hope is that this will be introduced again in January so that everyone can learn more about all of the potential benefits for all of our residents so that an informed decision can be made. Thank you.
Good evening. Nancy D'Andrea, 3 Vanderveer Drive. All right, let's start with Ordinance 2567. If possible, I do think Seal Spout should have an exemption. They've been here for decades, and nobody seemed to have ever complained about them, so why not? Sherry, I'm president of the Somerset County Park Commission. Please send an email to the Park Commission saying that you spoke with Nancy D'Andrea and say, this is what we need. And I know our therapeutic recreation department is quite good. And we would love to know what we could do to expand. Okay? So everyone has NIMBY. Do you know what NIMBY is? Not in my backyard. Everyone has that. Okay? Whether it be the 150 Allen, this film studio, everyone's like, yeah, that would be great, but not in my backyard. Oh, we need affordable housing, not in my backyard. Well, unfortunately, we have borders. It's going to be in somebody's backyard. All right, so I think because there are some positives to the idea of this film studio. If possible, please reintroduce it if the people that want to build it are interested still, or they might have already gone off to another town and gonna go someplace else. Reintroduce it and let's try to get more details. A lot of people are saying, okay, the affordable housing or the housing for exceptional adults would be great for our town. I have to be honest with you, I don't know if there's a guarantee that it's going to be for our exceptional children, exceptional adults. It could be for anybody that applies. All right, so you have to think about that. But we need to know. So again, if it gets reintroduced, that would be great. Excuse me. Okay. The other thing I want to mention is our town. I've been here since 1997. And I remember the reaction when the Hills was built. I remember every time there's something brand new. I remember the reaction to the mosque. I remember the reaction to Dewey Meadow. I remember a lot of reactions. Even when they built the new senior citizen complex by Valley Road, that was recently, people were against that. Okay, again, not in my backyard. Friends, if we want lower taxes, we need a rateable. We need something. We don't have AT&T anymore, and we're not going to get anything like that again. For those that were here back in the AT&T days, it was a really nice thing to have for our taxes. So a township committee, people, residents, we have to do something, or else, because unless we start taking preserve land, open space, and start doing stuff with that, which nobody wants to touch, we need something. So let's think about it. And the reaction I saw online to what happened, I was here 2 weeks ago at the Township Committee meeting. I thought the behavior back then was shocking, and I think the behavior I read online was disrespectful, and I have disagreed with everybody on this township committee, but I would not behave like that, okay? So I'm saying please reintroduce it if you can, show us more details, and let's see if we can work on finding something that will help us with our ratables, to lower our taxes, to help us with maybe affordable housing, to lower our numbers, to see if we can get a guarantee. Can these housing facilities house our exceptional children and adults? And what could it bring in for business on our end? There's a lot of questions, but we won't know any answers unless it's reintroduced. And again, Seal Spout should stay. Thank you.
Next.
Hi, my name's Hong Lee. I live in Baskin Ridge, 10 Meadowview Road. This is my son, Arthur. He's on the spectrum, and he wants to say a few words, if he could, to the committee. Arthur, please.
I am Martha Lee. I graduated from Witch High School last year. I like my friends at Witch High School. I hope I could keep my friends, Maria and Amelia. We played basketball together with Westmore Central. I like basking Witch because I like to talk to my friends, Luke and Woman. I hope we have a chance to play basketball together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, or evening, I guess. My name is Emily York. I am a resident at 241 Madisonville Road. If any of you guys are familiar with the address, it is directly across the street from the Verizon complex currently. I'm sure you also know it. We had the water main break last week. So I've been a resident of this town for 27 years next month. That's a long time. And You know, I've seen AT&T, I've seen Pfizer, I've seen Verizon. Wow, emotions. But, you know, that area of land that that was involved in the ordinance is one that, I don't know, it's been empty for some time, for about maybe 10 years since, you know, people were actually kicked out by Pfizer to currently give the land that sits there to Verizon. You know, my mom used to work at AT&T. She walked across the street to go to work, and, you know, when they went away, she lost her job as well. I agree that this town does need some sort of special needs assignment. Back in my days at Ridge High School, I was actually able and greatly appreciative of the opportunity to be working with the special needs students during the summers. I was, I think, one of 3 students in the high school who got to, you know, interact with these students and see what it was like. And I can say that number of 202 students, there definitely wasn't. It was a lot less, and I'm incredibly proud to see this town grow, as I have. However, I think it's difficult to say where emotions get involved, such as my own right now. But I think the issue, from what I've seen and from what I've heard from the concerned citizens on both sides, is who and what and where. And, you know, as it is a standpoint, you know, we don't know who is going to be able to live in any sort of development. The Department of Human Services largely controls who gets assignments for housing needs, especially for disabled, anyone who is disabled, any kind of disability generally, as I understand it. The biggest thing that, you know, a lot of these people or anyone who has a disability or any sort of impediment towards what we would call a neurotypical lifestyle, you know, I think that speaks more towards the town. That speaks more towards what resources we're offering, what resources that we actually don't have. If there's any way for me to be involved with those, put it out. Let's do something together as a town to create more capabilities. I know that there's a limit of taxpayer dollars. You know, we can't build facilities out of nothing, but maybe there's something more that we can say, that we can have field day, but advanced field day for, you know, with volunteers that do implement these resources, these programs that incorporate the community. What we're looking for here is community involvement and community agreement, not in my backyard. This is my front yard, and I'm not going to like a 65-foot building right in my front yard. I mean, I already see Verizon. They're great. I wave high now. But, you know, that took a long time. I think if we are to reintroduce an ordinance, let's reintroduce an ordinance that, you know, talks about developing something specifically for people with developmental disabilities, specifically for those. If you look at the ordinance, it is an amendment to the code as it stands right now. The code, which R1 specifically and R2 are designated for residential uses. A film studio is not a residential use. In fact, even the other ordinance that we're talking about regarding light manufacturing, if you look at zone E2, E2 is currently listed as being available for film and TV studios. Why, or for TV and radio studios? Why not build a film studio in an E2 zone then? We can keep R1 zones, make it residential, give it another variance, give some sort of variance to specifically developmental disabilities. Make it a primary purpose, and maybe we can have something to agree on as a town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name's Suzanne Flanagan. I'm a resident of Basking Ridge for 13 years. I'm here today as a parent and a strong advocate for the special needs community. My son's 19 years old. He was diagnosed with brain cancer at 1 year old, and as a result faces many challenges every day. He's deaf, autistic, still requires a feeding tube. For my son and for many others in the community with special needs, this proposed studio for housing is more than just an idea. It represents a chance for dignity, independence, a future where our loved ones can thrive. I ask you to think about the individuals in our town who face daily challenges and how critical it is to create opportunities for them to live fulfilling lives. This housing isn't just bricks and mortar. It's about providing a safe, supportive environment where people like my son can receive the care and attention they need. It's about giving them access to workforce training like my son could benefit from, so they can feel a sense of purpose and independence. I can't tell you how important that would be for us as a family and for so many others in the special needs community. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank our mayor for being such a dedicated advocate for this community. We're incredibly fortunate to have leadership that understands these challenges and is working toward real solutions. To those who may have concerns or reservations, I understand. Change can be difficult, but I urge you to consider the lives that will be transformed by this project. If you had to worry about what happened to your child who can't care for themselves, what's going to happen to them when you're gone, how would you feel? It's not about meeting a need. It's about making sure everyone in our community has a chance to thrive, regardless of the challenges they face. Let's move forward together and show the world that our town is a place where everyone, regardless of their abilities, has a chance to succeed. Thank you.
Ms. Flanagan, can you state your address for the record?
44 Chimney Ash Farm Road.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Larry Trachtenbroich, 21 Brentwood Court. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but here I am. I do not know the challenges of what goes on with the people with disabilities, and I am sure everybody in this room would want to do more, and we should do more, without question. There's some things that make me angry. One thing that makes me angry is the lack of transparency and the lack of information. I think everybody here just wants more information on it. And when my time is over in Basking Ridge, I would rather be known to live in a town that was supportive of these children and these adults, as opposed to being the town with a movie production company. It's great that you're an advocate, and I wish I could do more. I would say the one good thing out of these two hearings is knowing that there's a shortfall here for what is being offered, and put something forward for them, because I would feel terrible if we do move forward with the movie studio and these 16 houses don't go to the people that live in this town and stuff. Let's spend the money. We have a community center that nobody uses. Let's figure out ways to give more services to the people in this town, and let's just be transparent about it, put the information out there. So thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Susan Goldsmith. I'm at 15 Carswell Court, so that's in the Maple Run complex. That's across from the Verizon Center on Madisonville Road. I've lived here in town for over 30 years, and I didn't even know that complex was there, the Maple Run complex, until I moved there about 12 years ago. I completely understand the need for special needs housing and special needs development. All sympathies. Township should do a lot more for those people who have graduated, especially from the Ridge High program. And we have desperate need for that kind of services for those people. However, the complex that is proposed is way out of keeping with the rest of the neighborhood. Those buildings that are proposed are enormous and not in keeping with the Verizon Center that's nearby either. The whole project is just out of proportion. And I'm concerned also that it sounds like people are hearing promises made about the financing of the
special needs housing without there being a real connection to the soundstage. Where is that in writing, that they're actually going to support the special needs housing? It sounds like they're just going to put something up, and those people need services that are very expensive. Is that actually going to be funded by the sound studio? I have not heard that, and if that's part of the plan, it needs to be really directed towards that. I'm also very concerned that there are sound stages going up all over the place, all over the country and all over the state. Netflix is building a huge complex in South Jersey in the old Fort Monmouth property. They're building something like 29 sound studios. How do we know that there's a need for these studios? I feel like maybe, they're saying they're going to put them there, and then what happens if there's not demand for the projects that they want to film there? Is that just the flavor of the month? Are they saying that, we're going to build these things, and then what happens if they're empty? Which could definitely happen. We have a lot of empty office buildings now. And, do they become warehouses? What happens if they don't get used as sound studios because of overbuilding in that industry? And those are my concerns. I don't want to destroy that property on the promise of something that just disappears in a couple of years. So that's my concern. Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Good evening, Mike Nelson, 195 Smoke Rise Road in Baskin Ridge. So my understanding of all of this was it was the beginning process. There was time to hear more. All of that was cut short, and that's unfortunate. But I am, hopeful that the comments that I heard about, the timing was the main issue, or that the, housing can be built anywhere, or that the job placement can be built anywhere, those kind of things. That why now, why here was kind of like the, the big issue. So I'm really hopeful that in January this can be reintroduced and we can go through the full process like like it should go, instead of cutting it off at the knees, so to speak. My son, he wouldn't even benefit from housing if it was guaranteed. So it's not about that. And we understand, I think everybody understands it has, unfortunately, the people that have special needs children that are turning into adults understand the wait list aspect, and there's absolutely no guarantee that this would go to 16 people in Basking Ridge, and it might go to the one person who's coming up on the wait list. That'd be great, but even that's not guaranteed. The job coaching and the the work placement, I'm nowhere near as polished as other people speaking here, but those are something that I think could greatly benefit my son and the other kids that I know in this town. So yeah, I hear that it was all about the timing. Why now? We can't possibly get out here, the night before Christmas Eve because we had so many other things to do. But everybody could have been here, so it could have been introduced. I don't understand why it had to stop. But with that said, it had to stop because it was being pushed through, right? And the timing was the issue. So I'm really hopeful that you guys, stick to what you're saying. And this could be built anywhere, right? It doesn't have to be here. This could be built anywhere, and this could be built anytime. But to anybody in the community that wants to do more, I guess if you guys want to donate land, because there is funding from the state to staff these things. There's to make sure that they're run and they're not turned into institutions. But what they need is a developer to build it and the land to build it on. And so unless anybody's looking to donate land and build something with their good intentions, it's going to take something like the forward thinking to go approach businesses. And if anybody's willing to donate land and they want to build something else, it doesn't have to be a movie studio. But the real world is the real world. So if they want to develop their land and get affordable housing sandwiched in there, I'm sure the room would be full with a lot more people to be upset. Yeah, I don't think I can think of anything else. But anyway, thank you. I still remember the Super Bowl party that your son organized. That was great. So I know that where you came from was a place of genuine you were trying to do something. And so for that, I applaud you. For the people that are questioning your motives and saying, oh, what's in it? It's just, it's sad to see, because, anyway. But thanks everyone for your volunteer. You know, I know you guys are all volunteers on this, so thanks for your time.
Good evening. My name is Chris Pedicine. I'm a resident at 12 Brentwood Court in Basking Ridge. I grew up at 201 Madisonville Road back in the 80s as a little kid, dodging AT&T commuters, trying to get to town to go buy a slice of pizza from Ridge Pizza. Spent a lot of time, and I spent a lot of time building a career so I could bring my family of 6 back to this town, and I now live around the corner from my childhood home, being reunited with some old friends and neighbors, and have been very, very happy to have found our dream home. It is sad that we here tonight are hearing two sides of the community being pitted against each other because a completely inappropriate use of land for a film studio is being attached to special needs facilities. This town does need it. We hear lots of people here. Not one person I've spoken to who said not in my backyard to the film studio had one negative comment about special needs housing being in our backyard. Not one. The area that's being discussed is a residential area. No one is against people using that for residential uses. It is simply because we're saying the only way we can afford this development is because someone with promises we have not heard details of through lack of transparency is saying they will build this structure and give us a little bit of this land if we give them the entire piece of land. So nobody that I have spoken with from this community is against the special needs community. We are against an inappropriate use of land for a film studio in a residential neighborhood. I know that we are down the street from Verizon. Again, I grew up down the street from AT&T, but AT&T's setbacks from the road put it far enough away that it is not taking away from the charm of the community, which is one of the goals of our master plan. The proposed use from this ordinance is not in keeping with the master plan. So I challenge the leadership here, as well as the community behind us and those at home, to find a more creative way to provide land, a building. Obviously, there are state funding for the services that are required. Let us find the appropriate way to handle the needs of our community. Let us not do it in an inappropriate way because we believe there is money available. We can find another way. This is not a community without means. So, I thank everyone for their leadership. We thank everyone for their time for hearing everyone. And I hope that a new ordinance is created if there is an appropriate use of that land for residential properties as it is zoned. I hope we come up with a new ordinance, not the other one, that allows for appropriate use in keeping with the community and the town's master plan. Thank you very much.
Hi, sorry. Karen Fisher at 15 Homestead Road. My remarks will be very brief. I just want to say I truly think that our mayor, this committee, my belief is that this was introduced with good intentions. Hopefully it was opposed with good intentions. And I would love to see a continued conversation with those good intentions. I think in suggesting full transparency, then information needs to be presented. We need to see what the items are that we're actually opposing or agreeing to. Without that information, I don't think anyone can fully say we've been given the opportunity to have our opinions heard. We don't really know what it is that we're opposing or agreeing to at this juncture. So I do just request that we continue to have this dialogue in the new year. Again, I think that my hope is that we can all agree that this is introduced with those same good intentions, with a population in mind, with opportunities for work opportunities for special needs community and for, just additional jobs in our community. And I think that, if we can continue to be respectful of one another and listen, I would love to hear more. I think that you know, again, it may end up at the end of this that it's not a good fit, that it's not the right plot of land, that somehow we can come up with a different creative solution. But I think without hearing more, without learning more, we're making a decision without all the information, and to me, that's not transparency. So thank you all for your time, and happy holidays. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristen Douglas. Actually, 201 Madisonville Road, and I can't wait to talk to you later because I live in your house. We just moved in a couple years ago. That's so cool. I mean, it's a historic home. It was built in the 1700s. That's why we chose to buy it, because we wanted to be in a historic area in a beautiful residential town. And I look out my window every day. This is directly across from the property. So, I mean, there's tons of wildlife. We love our neighborhood, and we love the idea of community involvement. But while we were talking, I was Googling. So on one of the pages, it says that this will be 350,000 max floor space for the sound stages. And the largest Costco in the US is only 235,000 square feet. So just for scale, that was shocking to me. And I just wanted to get on the record that I think that this is a completely inappropriate location for such an enormous commercial undertaking. This is a charming, like Stars Hollow type neighborhood, not a commercial film studio. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rats, 27 Brentwood Court. I've been in this community for 28 years, 27 years, and I've been working in a practice here in Basking Ridge, dental associate in Basking Ridge for 22 years. The practice has been serving Somerset Hills community since 1947. You know, years ago, Kathleen Cancro, I'm not sure if she started PEC here, but she was a big advocate of it, and we supported that organization for years. Went to their galas and everything. It needs to be on the record that we are not against special needs kids, and we're not against building something for that community. But this is not the appropriate place to put a film production studio. It's just not. You know, when I moved into my home, we got everything environmentally checked because we wanted to build an addition eventually. And I procrastinated. And now, when the time came to do that, what wasn't wetlands became wetlands. Just like this was a residential area, how many years ago, when there was homes that AT&T had built there, they've leveled those homes, okay? They leveled those homes, and now that has become a habitat of a lot of endangered species. And there's forest there and all this. It changed. And now to put something this massive there just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. I mean, the planning board voted the way they voted because this was being rushed through. It felt untransparent. Maybe those weren't the intentions, but that's how it felt. To do something like this in 4 days it's just impossible when they had all this time to do it in this holiday season. So I don't know how it came to that, but that's where we were, and that's why it ended up so. But, you know, I know that this community would stand behind building something for these children. That's who we are. But to hide behind a film studio, which is only going to provide 2% of that lot to these children, let's use the money to do something else, better for them. Somewhere where they're not on the outskirts of town and they can't walk for a slice of pizza. You know, what there is there for them to even get a slice of pizza or dry cleaning, whatever it is that they would need, all right? I'm not familiar with that. So I propose that we find a place in this town, if this is what we really need, and find that right spot for them. And you know, there's a lot of resources in this town. We have a lot of money here. And I know that this community would stand behind that, especially the neighbors in my neighborhood. But I really don't believe, based on the master plan, that this is conforming to what you want to build there. It's not that we're attacking you. We're not attacking the PEC. We don't think it's a good use for a lot of different reasons that a lot of people have pointed out. I mean, if you read the master plan, it is just not conforming. It's not consistent with the master plan. All right, thank you for your service, and everybody have happy holidays.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Robin Marion, 209 Madisonville Road, and I think I'll take the prize. I came here in 1974, so I've been around for a while. I'm not opposed to a movie studio. That's a decision that needs to be looked at financially. But I think one of the speakers said there's a place where we're zoned for movie studios, so I would think maybe we ought to put it there. And I also agree that we do have a need for help for special needs young adults. I don't know where a good place to put that is. I was thinking, okay, so put that, in the zone. But then this gentleman said they can't walk anywhere because North Maple is a busy road. But I think maybe, I wouldn't mind putting the movie studio there, but I wouldn't mind it being 6 stories. So I hope we can work together to find a solution. I've been noticing tonight, each person brings a little bit more information to share, to build some sort of possible solution. So I hope we just keep doing that. Thank you, and have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Victoria Costa, 15 Hilltop. Thank you for hosting Christmas Eve, since I had no plans. I'm going to tell you that the majority of these past 2 years, and I'm going to say 2 years, have been nothing but a divided town. And that stems from everything, from politics down onto this. And you see everybody pitted against each other on social media, unfortunately. I'm going to ask everybody to just pause a second and realize that there are a lot of people against the movie studio. I'm one of them. I'm going to tell you a reason why. There's a lot of movie production studios being built, not by third-party developers, by the companies themselves, like Netflix, not to be rented out. I come from a hometown of Bayonne, where it's one of the biggest Netflix studio being built right now. It's at a military ocean terminal in an industrial avenue area where there is no housing and no residential. I get it, not in my backyard, but this is zoned for R1. This is supposed to be somebody's backyard. I do sympathize with the special needs community. I've done nothing for the past 5 years but give back to this town, from seniors to veterans and everybody in between. And the veterans are actually considered special needs, disabled. And there's not just the kids that graduate this high schools, but most people become disabled in adult lifestyles, then are born with a disability. So not only do we have the kids graduating out of the program, but we have people in their 30s and 40s and 50s becoming disabled every day and not being able to work a traditional job. I stopped and I paused for a second and said to myself, what could we do as a community? And I realized one of the things I do is I deliver food and services to people at Ridge Oak. For those of you who have been here a long time, not as long as this, but in 1967, 6 houses of worship decided we didn't have enough for the senior citizens. And there came the concept of Ridge Oak. 6 houses of worship. We didn't need a movie production company. 6 houses of worship band together their people and built Ridge Oak. You know what that consists of? 310 units. Plenty of spaces for our seniors. Why couldn't we do the same exact thing? Form a LLC, go to our houses of worship, band together as a community, and provide all the things our children and our disabled, beyond the kids at Ridge who graduate, all the disabled in the town. I've heard we need a community center. I could walk to the community center that's built right now. The lights are never on. It is so underutilized, it's not even funny. Besides voting there, I don't think, and one Unico event I attended, I don't think I've ever been in the place myself. There are so many different creative ways to do it. I'm a transformation executive. I do this for corporate America. I would give my services to the township for free to do anything to provide a kind of solution we need, because I see that we have become so overburdened with such social needs in our community and in every community, from mental health to disabilities to seniors to veterans to everything in between. And we don't have enough people and we don't have enough hands. And I know, because I spent with a handful of others, people delivering Christmas gifts in our community to people and children who had nothing. So if we could band together and do what's right for the community, I'm more than willing to help. I'm not for the movie production studio. It's not a movie production studio. It's a developer developing the land and renting out a studio. Most big movie production companies have their own studios. They don't build third party. Thank you.
Tyler Stein, Riverside Drive. There's no comment for 2568. But a lot of people have spoken about special needs. The town could put an offer on 150 Allen Road and possibly build that. That'd be a nice large piece of land for that. But there's also, on Lord Sterling Road, is the old Lord Sterling School that's been abandoned for a couple of years now, at least 3-4 years or more. That'd be a nice place to have a schooling and residence for special needs, and maybe the town should look into that. And everybody else have a good holiday. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am Kristen McQuaid. I live at 4 Brentwood Court. I just want to say that this is so disappointing how this was all presented, because it makes our neighborhood look like we're against housing for special needs, which could not be further from the truth. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist. I work for the Morris Union Jointure Commission for many years. My entire career has been spent getting kids, as they turn to adults, being ready for this type of housing. It's impossible to find this housing. It's impossible to find quality housing. Of course we want the housing. What we don't want is facilities that are the size of 2 Walmart supercenters right across the street. There are 11 residential lots. We're powerful people. We can raise money. There's group homes in this town that have been privately funded. We can figure out a way to do it. It will take a lot of work, but we do not need a film studio to offset a cost for 16 individuals, when we could develop 11 residential lots, and however many can fit in those lots. That's quadruple the amount of people that could fit in that 16-unit residential housing. Thank you. Oh. And as far as transparency, we would have loved to hear more about it too, but this was a vote. This was supposed to be a vote today, which once that vote is made, you can't back off from it. So then Verizon has the power to go and sell it to whoever they want to sell it if it turns into an overlay zone. That was our problem with the transparency. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Isabella Trachtenbroid. I live at 21 Brentwood Court, Basking Ridge. I wasn't going to speak, but I just wanted to, I don't know, just say, while we are all divided, unfortunately, this community has been divided because of this project, because of this ordinance, because it was being rushed, because it was being pushed down our throats at the last minute, even though it's been planned and known and in the works since July. But I wanted to just remind everyone, and I think most would agree, why did we move to this town? Why did we decide to bring our families here? Because this is Basking Ridge, because this is not armpit of New Jersey, as they call it everywhere else. This is a beautiful town. Why did we choose to live here? Would we choose to live here, move here, if there was a size, a building size of a Walmart right at the very entrance to town? Think about it. We are not against special needs community. I promise that if there is ordinance introduced in New Year to help in spearhead special needs housing, I will be part of it. I promise you that. Thank you.
Hi, Harry Wyman, 194 North Maple Avenue. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight either, and I've heard a lot of different things. And, just let me start by saying, when I first became aware of this ordinance, I was so upset. I was just livid to think that we would even consider doing something of this magnitude in what seemed very rushed. But I'm actually trying to look at this in a positive now, to be honest with you. I'm hearing it from a lot of people from a lot of different parts of the town, and I'm hearing a lot of good ideas and suggestions, and I'm feeling like, can we take this and turn it into a positive? And if there's this tremendous need, which I was not aware of, for special needs children and adults, let's take this as an opportunity to do something about it as a community. And I just think there's so many other creative ways we can do this than what we're talking about here. It just seems like even if it did do something to help that community, at what cost? I mean, it just seems to be too much of a cost for the benefit. So just even taking, the emotions out of it, what are we giving up to try to help some people? Couldn't we do something more than that? So I'll also commit my services to try to see what we can do about this. I mean, I just think about stuff like, have we ever gone to Verizon and asked them to donate that land to us? It's been sitting there for 12 years. Maybe we could try a little harder. What's the tax write-off for them to do that? They're not getting a whole lot of money from the sale, from my understanding, for Verizon. But what I'm saying is, I just think that there's so many different things that we can do and we should try to do. And I'm just afraid that, I know it sounds intriguing and maybe it could be a good thing. I'm not buying the tax write-off. I think it'd be minimal at best. And I think the bigger risk is that place sits there empty and it hurts us more than it helps us. But I'm also afraid that if we open the door to do this investigation and intrigue, we're sitting here next year fighting now to get out of the damn thing that we started, and we opened up other issues for us with zoning. For what? Let's just use this as an opportunity to do something else. I'm going to ask you guys flat out, let's just let this ordinance die. Let's not reintroduce this next year. Let's try to come up with something else. We give you our commitment to move forward to try to do something for the special needs as best we can. There's got to be other ways to do it. I was blown away. It's bigger than a Costco. Are you kidding me? That's the first thing you'd see coming into Basking Ridge is a friggin' ugly Costco, a big warehouse. So please, guys, it's Christmas Eve almost. Let's not do this. This is just a mistake. Let's not go down this road again with more fighting and more lawyers and going on for a year. It just, sometimes you don't have to do too much investigation. You just know it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. The risk is just too great. So thank you for your time. I hope that you'll listen to us. There's a whole lot of people on this side of town here that just don't want this. I think if everyone understood how horrible it would look and the negative impacts that it will have for the benefit of a few, it's just not worth it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Stella Perna, 105 Tuxford Terrace. I too am against having the movie studio in our town. But like Victoria said, I am for helping our special needs community. There definitely is a need. We have a program in our school that attracts people to come here, and they are, put through the system, and then it's just a cliff, and that's a disservice to them. So as others have mentioned, we should do something creative, and I'm all for that. I'm also I feel very strongly about history. As a naturalized American, I love everything about America, especially the history, and this town is so rich in it, and I don't want to see anything that we have here be ruined for a film studio, which to me is, yes, we started film in New Jersey. I know because my grandfather worked for Thomas Edison. And that's how I was able to get citizenship. So I get it. But in that particular area, there is a lot of history, and it would be compromised. And we have to stand in the gap. Who's going to stand in the gap? We can do all things well. We can preserve the history. We can help the special education adults. We can do it all. Let's say yes to everything, but no to the studio. And I really like the idea of repurposing buildings that have been laid dormant. I see in other states where malls are abandoned, they're creating mixed use, where it's businesses on the lower level and apartments or condos on the upper levels. I think we can be creative. We got a lot of smart people living in this town. Let's, use sort of a think tank. Let's have a meeting where we can come up with creative ideas. Thank you for your time, and wish everyone Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and a Happy New Year.
Anyone else?
Hi, Lisa Bauman, 76 Deer Creek Drive. I just want to say that I'm impressed by people coming here tonight and actually offering really great ideas. I think it's a great example of what can happen when people come together. I think that we don't have to be a town divided. We can actually disagree and not attack one another personally. So I think that there have been wonderful ideas. I can't say that I am definitely in favor of a movie studio. I don't know. But what I do know is that your intention was good. You're not just looking for the special needs community. You're also considering tax revenue. You're considering revenue for the businesses in town, programs for the children in our schools. I know that you just spent the last year working 30, 40 hours a week for the benefit of our community. You work to ensure the safety of our community, and I know that your intentions were for this community. So I'm sorry that you were ever attacked personally for this, or that anyone on the dais was, and I just hope that everybody can remember what happened here tonight, that we can come together, we can disagree, we can offer some great ideas, and we can work together as a community. Thank you.
Hi, David Berger, 28 Brentwood Court. Let me first start off by saying I'm glad there's no public comment on this ordinance tonight because I had 5 pages of inconsistencies with the master plan, but I've revised my speech tonight. I've listened closely to all the voices in the room. What I've heard is a shared commitment to making a difference for the IDD community. This community, like every other, deserves opportunities, resources, and respect. But alongside this call for action, I've also heard concerns about how we approach solutions, particularly regarding the proposed movie studio. Let me begin by saying that I'm inspired by the passion and dedication expressed here tonight. There is a collective agreement that we must do something impactful, meaningful, and sustainable for the IDD community. This is a testament to our shared humanity and desire to uplift those whose voices are often overlooked. However, while we all want to see progress, the idea of a movie studio has brought differing opinions, most of them bad. Concerns have been raised about whether such a project aligns with our values, meets the needs of the IDD community, or reflects the best use of resources. These are valid points, and I want to affirm that your concerns are heard and respected. What I believe we need is a solution that brings us together, not divides us. The IDD community doesn't just need symbolic gestures or high-profile projects. They need practical, everyday support, programs that create meaningful jobs, inclusive spaces, educational opportunities, and access to the resources they need to thrive. A movie studio is not the right vehicle for achieving these goals, and that's okay. It's okay to say no to an idea if it means saying yes to better ones. What matters most is that we remain united in our mission to serve this community in ways that truly make a difference. As we move forward, I encourage all of us to think creatively and collaboratively. Let's explore other avenues, programs, partnerships, or initiatives that align with the needs and dreams of the IDD community. Let's commit to a plan that prioritizes their voices, their choices, and their futures. In closing, tonight's discussion has proven one thing. We are a community that cares deeply and passionately. Let's channel that energy into finding solutions that reflect our shared values and create lasting impact. Together, we can do something extraordinary, not for the sake of appearances, but for the real and lasting benefit of the community. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, good evening. My name is Barbara Horążkiewicz, 195 Madisonville Road. So yes, I do live right across the street from the site we are discussing. So I just wanted to say that I'm really very sad how this community has been divided over the last couple weeks. And just overall, like last 2 years, I feel like we are going from one corner to town to another corner of the town, trying to find the battles over this community. And we all know the reason why we decided to live in Basking Ridge. I know I came here because the school system and the beauty of this town, the historic values, the environmental values of this town brought me and my family here. I bought this property because I didn't buy the house on the cul-de-sac. I bought the property on Madisonville Road where it connects to Harding, where it's beautiful. I can walk my dog, and with my whole family we can go to the Great Swamp. And that's the beauty of this part of the town. It's quiet. When I moved to this town in 2000, I have all my notes from the planning board meeting. 2016, 8 years ago, there was a big struggle in that particular area over Bamboo Grill. I don't know if who remembers that settlement, but it was about the noise. It was about amplified music. There were a lot of different factors that happened. And the neighbors thought, and there is a specific ordinance regarding the noise, regarding Basking Ridge Country Club. But there was also a struggle for people who were trying to buy that property. It took the years for the previous owner to sell that house, because every time somebody was trying to buy this house, it was in the newspapers. What happened? So I just want to bring this as well to the table that it was very important for me, this current election, 2024, because the main object on the agenda was stop overdevelopment, okay? This is my legacy. I fought for this house for 2 years during my divorce, okay? And that was one of the things that my kids came to me and said, Mom, one thing, I work 3 jobs. I have a full job, I work at the Y as an instructor, and I have some other things that I do. just to pay the taxes for my kids to go to the school, just for my 2 boys to be in the house that they were raised, maybe not born, but they love that house, okay? And I thought with my ex-husband for that house for 2 years. Why do I have to fight for this again? Why the parents with children with disabilities have to fight for the same thing? Like, why can we come with something that will be a common ground? Why all these animals on that land, we said minimum 23 acres, a Walmart, and then what will happen with all these animals? Anybody even thinks about this? There are thousands of habitats. Have we talked this through with DEP, Great Swamp? There's so many organizations around us that actually may give us some feedback about this as well. So my concerns are, why are we here? Think about this town. I didn't buy a house in, I don't know, some other town, where I'm gonna look at the Walmart across the street. This is also my investment and other people's investment, and I'm really very sad that we are being divided in this room. And I actually did talk to a couple friends who have children with disabilities. And there's only 16 houses, and the percentage of those children from our town to be actually involved there, which, as Victoria mentioned, it is only, it's not a Netflix, it's not Disney. It's somebody who's going to rent spaces. So please keep this in mind. And Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and thank you.
Anyone else? I'm not seeing any motion. Anyone? Okay, then I'm going to, shall I close public comment? Okay, I'm going to close public comment.
Mayor, can we have a brief recess? Just for 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
That's
move. So we now are at staff comments, township committee comments, and board liaison reports. Pat, would you like to start, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to welcome our two new personnel appointments this evening. It's Kieran Dadlani, library assistant, and Megan Marconi, admin assistant to our tax assessor. And I'd like to wish everybody happy holidays as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Christy?
None this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. John?
No, thank you, Mayor.
And we'll start with Anna, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So I also want to welcome our new staff and their appointments. Differently, first of all, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. Whether you liked or loathed the ordinance overlay, whether you're a parent or a family member of a person with intellectual or developmental disability, your voice does matter. And it's really critical that we have opportunities to have these conversations. And I know the holidays are upon us, so for you to take time to be here with us, not perhaps with your family or loved ones, it's very significant. So I really appreciate it. I'm sure all my colleagues do too. A couple of things. I was one of the persons who did vote to introduce this ordinance. I felt as an elected official it was an opportunity to do due diligence, to better understand if there were economic opportunities for our town, to consider and foster development that was responsible. And in the course of that due diligence, I learned a lot of things. Now, we are not acting or hearing about, although the gentleman made a comment, we're not having a public hearing tonight or taking action. Differently, though, I also wanted to hear what the public thought. And we've heard a lot. We've heard a lot of drum beats. And I want to consider and reflect that the community that came in particular tonight with intellectual and developmental disability is a really important community. I've lived in town almost 29 years. My husband moved here with his family in 1969. So we have a long history of being in Berners Township. About 22 years ago, my next door neighbor came in with 4 sons. Her second oldest son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. And so we are very close to this family, and we've seen their challenges and their opportunities they've had in raising Sean, who's now 29. She also introduced us to the Our House community, and she and her husband have built and funded a home on East Craig Street. So I think it's important that we, and myself, I'll speak for myself, consider that this is not an either-or situation. This is not that we will either build special needs housing on this overlay or it will never happen in this community. I think I've heard resoundingly that we should do more for the community and that we can consider creative solutions and impactful solutions. That number that was shared, about 200 young people in the Ridge High School program, that number has grown over the years. We are a beacon for many in the community because of the schools that we have, the services that we have. And I personally am on the board of the YMCA here in town, and even over the past 2 weeks have said, we have to do more. And we're having a meeting in January to talk about programming for adults with disabilities, more than what's happened, because there's a great program there, Saturdays in Motion, that some participate in. So I do want you to know that that is a really important message that I'm taking away from this meeting and from what I've heard the last 2 weeks. Also, I wanted to comment on some of the things that were said. All of us here, we may have different opinions. We may agree or we may disagree. I want to say that I believe all of us lead here with positive intent, that we try to do the best we can and we try to do the best for our community. And so to that extent, I will take that commitment forward next year to be part of a conversation about individuals with intellectual and developmental disability, and to do our best to try to consider ways to support that in the coming year. So again, I do thank you for being here and to be part of this conversation, and your voice always matters, so thank you.
Thank you. Andrew.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to try and keep my remarks brief tonight. My preference would simply be to wish our residents all the very best for the holidays and leave it at that. Obviously, that's not a realistic option, and I must address the movie studio proposal. However, I do so in the spirit of Christmas, Hanukkah, and the upcoming New Year, and I seek to frame my words with wishes of peace and understanding to our residents and not in questioning anyone's motives at any point. And certainly, I would like to thank all of the residents who came out tonight, whether you made your voice heard here or not. We certainly appreciate the community input that we hear. As the folks who have been following this matter know, an ordinance was introduced on December 12th that would have rezoned portions of the Verizon campus to accommodate the movie studio. Through various means, I opposed beginning in this process. My reasoning was both substantive and procedural. On the procedural side, there were any number of ways to have introduced this to the public short of a ordinance introduction. And I felt that that was not the right way to go about doing this. And you only get one chance to make a first impression. And I don't believe the first impression that was made via the vehicle that was used was a good first impression by any means. And, you know, on substance, I'll pick one example. Under the analysis done by our CFO, the project, once fully developed, would at best produce less than 1/2 of 1% of our town's budget in terms of tax revenue. That is a drop in the bucket in terms of tax revenue, and certainly not sufficient to warrant moving forward for that reason. I also believed that the introduction of this ordinance stood to divide the town and cause deep concern among many of our residents. And that has certainly proved true with people on opposite sides of this issue, many of whom you heard from tonight. Let me be clear, the overwhelming purpose of this project is to develop a movie studio. It indeed has attracted some support, mainly due to the addition of the 16-unit special needs housing facility and related services. Those opposed to the project, I believe, were not in any way opposed to special needs housing, as you heard from many of the opponents tonight. The development of special needs housing does not require the co-location of a movie studio on the same site, and I'll go out on a limb and guess that such a pairing would be unique, to say the least. While the township itself is not a property developer, I welcome those interested in special needs housing and services to reach out to the township committee and staff in the new year, and let's continue this conversation. We would be happy to discuss and address how the township can support special needs housing and services on a going forward basis. Looking ahead, with the year ending, the introduced ordinance will expire. The ordinance would need to be reintroduced in the new year in order for this to move forward and go through the process that was originally envisioned. I'm confident that this movie studio ordinance will not be reintroduced. Not in January, not in February, and not thereafter. This is in part because of representations made that if the ordinance was not adopted in December, the project would never move forward. As such, a future introduction should logically be off the table. Moreover, I do not believe the measure would have sufficient support here to support an introduction the second time around. And I have a message to the would-be developer of this project who I've never met, which is odd standing alone. But if you're listening, you have a business to run, and I wish you all the success in the world. However, a movie studio is not right for Berners Township, and I hope this experience causes you to move on and look elsewhere. Of course, in the very unlikely case that an attempt is made to reintroduce this movie studio ordinance, I will oppose it with the same vigor that I opposed all of this over the past couple of weeks. And I'll go one step further. I will oppose the development of any movie studio at any time, anywhere in Berners Township, so long as I am on this committee. The good news is that the movie studio proposal was short-lived, and indeed, controversial land development proposals have lingered in this town and others for much, much longer than this. That said, we now must begin a process of repairing division caused by virtue of this proposal and allow our residents, for or against, to enjoy the holidays in peace. With this in mind, I wish our Berners Township residents a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary?
None this evening, Mayor.
Janice?
Okay, I'm going to try to do this while I'm shivering. It's so cold up here. And it may be a little choppy because I did write something out, but I do want to add a couple of things and answer some of your questions that you have. So our community has always been known for its strong bonds, mutual respect, and shared values that bring us together. However, what has transpired in the last 2 weeks, we have found ourselves in a place that we haven't been in a long time, a community divided. The movie studio project divided us, residents against residents. There were those opposed to the project due to the tremendous negative impact it would have had on our town, and I have to agree with that. There were those who felt the need for more special needs housing facilities in our community, and I want to stress that everyone has said that tonight. The special needs project was only 2% of the whole project, which is very small. So we are all for the special needs project, and I feel like if this is something that we all want to do, we need to have a seat at the table with the Peck families, with the special needs, and if we can find another location, we will. This wasn't part necessarily of our affordable housing credits. Sure, we can put it in there, but we still haven't decided that yet, so this may not even be part of that. And if we decided to make it part of it, it would go to the next round of affordable housing credits. So we all agree that it's unfortunate that we are all pitted against each other for the special needs houses. So I want to say again, I am for it. I think they should have a seat at the table with us, and we should find a way. And I think it's just beautiful as a community that we've all come together to say that we believe in this, we want to help that community, and we're going to do what we can. And that's one thing about this town that I'm always, always proud of. If you go on Facebook or you talk to people in this neighborhood, they're either, if there's a family in need for money and they're not getting Christmas gifts, or the veterans need to be fed, or somebody needs a ride somewhere because their mother's disabled and they have to work, somebody will give them a ride. So we've always been able to come together and rally and help one another. And I think with this cause, that's something that we will do. Also, Nancy had mentioned it, with the county has a lot of programs, which we pay a lot of taxes to the county to provide those services to help children with special needs and with housing, and we also have state. So we can use those resources to help them also. If they're not helping, then like you mentioned, maybe we need programs in our parks and rec. Maybe we need this housing, but we can come together and we can figure it out. But the whole part of all of this really is a movie studio. It's not special needs. It's only 2%. So let's take the 2% and find it somewhere else, and let's help our community together. And then when we accomplish that, we can say we did it together for the betterment of the community. And as far as the community center is concerned, it's not a community center we were going to completely own ourselves. It was going to be a shared community center with the studio. We have a community center. If we're not happy with our community center and we're not using enough, let's find a way to use our community center. Let's make it better. We don't need to build another facility. So I just wanted to really make that clear. And I do, so as far as the special needs, like I said, there isn't an objection. The objection is solely to the movie studio. That is what the objection is. So we need to work together with the Peck family. What are your needs? How can we help you? And I too want to be frank, that I do believe the tax dollars that we would receive from this, people are under the impression it's millions of dollars. Maybe if it was $3 million we'd be collected, we'd say, well, not really, but I mean, we're talking about $134,000 to $215,000 that we're going to collect for this. I mean, we can find a way to find that money by cutting costs, finding it somewhere else to save us money and not have to build, like I feel like this is an industrial park. In a historical center, in a historical town, which has the beauty and the quaintness and people come here, and I love when I tell people that when I live in Basking Ridge, oh, wow, that's such a beautiful town. I don't want it to be known as a movie studio town, and I think a lot of you feel the same way. And I really want to be frank when I say I will continue to oppose this movie studio. I don't think it's the right place for our community, and I will do everything I can to make sure this project is not resurrected for next year. And that's how I feel, and that's how I felt from the beginning. And I also want to say, one thing I always say is community first, right? So what does community first mean? To me, it means always putting what's important to the community first in any decision I make. And I think my colleagues too. What's in the best interest of the community, what's in the best interest of all of you. And any decision that we make has to be thought out. And then when we come out, we are strong in our decision, and we can answer any questions that you have. And even if you oppose the questions, we should be given the opportunity to be able to answer all those, and it's all been vetted. And I feel it wasn't with this proposal, but I just don't think it's a good fit for our community. But I want to say I feel truly blessed to live in a community where you all put community first. You all came out for your opinions to talk about whether this is good for the community, whether it's not, how you can help the community, how we can make a difference. And that's why I always say this is a community. It's not a town to me. This is community. All come together to help each other. You all came out to speak your opinions, whether it affected your backyard or it didn't. You didn't feel it was the right idea. You all came out and you all spoke out. And that's why we have these meetings, for you to come out, voice your opinion. You have your right of freedom of speech. You have your right to come here and tell us how you feel about an issue. But most importantly, we all are up here because we care about all of you and we're serving all of you. If you need something, you reach out to us. We're going to help you. Special needs community, we're here. Whatever you do, state, county, the community can come together, help you. If you don't think this is a good idea, you came out as a community, some of us stand with you and some of us don't. But we're always going to be here, we're always going to service you in any way that we can. So I want to say that my commitment to you is that I will continue to foster a community of mutual respect, cooperation, and most importantly, transparency. Because we owe that all to you to always be transparent in everything we do. Thank you.
Thank you. So a couple things touching on recent activities and things that are going to take place coming forward before I get to my comments on this topic. I want to thank Ryan Wallace for him recording the Understanding Bernards that was on December the 12th at 7 p.m. It was on the Public Works Department, maintaining our infrastructure and services provided. That will be uploaded if it's not on the website yet. And just a reminder, that's a really important department, especially in this time of the weather. I understand that there may be some weather tomorrow, so he and the employees are amazing and continue to work to keep our residents safe. So please be careful, especially tomorrow. Upcoming, we have a lot of wonderful holiday things coming. We've got the community sing tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Out in front of the Basking Ridge Presbyterian Church around the tree, so we hope to see many folks there. It always reminds me of Whoville. We also have some wonderful menorah lightings within our community, so please look for those updates both at the Chabad and near the center of town. In January, so many of us pet owners, our licenses are expiring January 31st, and the town does have free rabies clinics. So in case you can't get to your vet before the end of January, there is the free rabies clinic on January the 11th. So make note of that for that. Besides this that's been going on, we've been hit with drones and American water issues. So I have two quick updates on that. From a drones perspective, I participated as a member of the Somerset Hills Safety Committee, where I traveled with other mayors from Somerset Hills to Ewing for the mayor's briefing. And we issued a press release out of that. Essentially at the state police headquarters, we were told, the state police at the time, we know nothing, we don't know who's doing it, we don't know how they're doing it. It was essentially nothing. But we still issued a press release that we went together. Then on December the 16th, as soon as I landed, I attended a mayor's briefing with the federal government. And what we learned in that, I believe has been shared widely, and why we didn't issue a press release, is that we were told that all drone activity is all lawful. So that is what the federal government tells us, and we really have nothing else to share. So I just want you to know that I've continued to seek information on that particular topic, and that is what we know. So I guess we just keep our eyes open. If there are any other hearings or invitations, I will join them. The American Water. So there have been 2 town halls that they've had for staff and mayors. And unfortunately, with both of those, they issue a press release, which is exactly the same thing I receive as a customer. So our Office of Emergency Management, Pat, I want to thank you for having them issue that. Because Ryan and Don Marling, who is also our health officer, are keenly interested to ensure that our water is safe in our community. So all we know is what we've been told. There's no additional information, so I guess we keep watching for those updates. So the press release, I believe, is what was issued. This is what they gave us, mayors. So just want you to know that we're still continuing to look for that. So now let me switch over to some things that I feel that I need to say. I need to take a few minutes to clear up some misunderstandings related to the film and community concept that was introduced at the December 10th Township Committee meeting. It was never intended to divide, and unfortunately, still to date, full information has never been shared. But yet people have very strong opinions for or against something that we don't have full information on. I would really sincerely hope that we would pause, collect full information before we actually make a decision. Nonetheless, as a reminder, this proposed concept was for a film studio and community campus located 1/2 of a mile from 287 on land that is private and currently owned by Verizon. The proposed concept had the following elements, which, as you all saw in the ordinance, are only words on paper. We don't have a concept yet. We don't have a revised concept, right? That revised concept was going to be given to all of us on December the 18th. But unfortunately, because of the actions taken at the planning board, that didn't come yet. So you really have no idea what it was supposed to look like because we didn't have the information yet. But it was to comprise film studio, a community center, workforce development space, and residences for adults with intellectual and development disabilities. So I need to walk you briefly through the timeline because I recognize there's been extreme confusion around it. The initial idea for this concept always originated for the need to create special needs housing. That's why it started. That's what its whole goal was. Ironically, it also helped meet our affordable housing obligation. So in July, when I got a call from a Phil Commission leadership about, is there a specific parcel of land near the interstate in the Union Zone for the potential use of a film studio, I provided them Verizon's contact information. I provided them, I didn't interact with them, I provided them that information. When that happened, I spoke to all members of the Township Committee about the idea. No one voiced any concern. They said, yeah, sounds interesting. Over the next few months, I had multiple meetings, many of which involved other employees of the township, with Verizon, and eventually the developer. After months of hard work, a concept plan was shared with all members of the Township Committee on November the 17th. No member expressed any concerns with me regarding the concept plan after receiving it. Moving forward, when we posted the agenda on December the 9th for the December 10th Township Committee meeting, later than usual, absolutely, but according to statutory legal requirements, because we refused to introduce an ordinance until a final contract was signed between two private parties. Despite our efforts to get that expedited faster. I was extremely surprised when a couple members of the Township Committee expressed their significant concern related to the concept at the December 10th Township Committee meeting. And even more surprised tonight to learn the adamant opposition for the first time ever as to what the concerns are. Looking back at last week, the most recent development, when it was sent to the planning board on December the 17th, the whole purpose of that was to determine whether or not the concept was consistent with the master plan or inconsistent. That's all it was. Although members of the planning board were requested to complete the review, the item was tabled by Mr. McNally's motion, effectively killing the ordinance and denying a public hearing. Because of the importance for the planning board to determine if the concept is consistent or inconsistent, I phoned in from my anniversary trip with my husband. I didn't intend to speak, but instead to render my vote. I was unprepared for the motion to table the topic. My comments were not intended to be dismissive to anyone listening. Instead, I was upset because I learned that there was an illegal robotext that appeared to be an official text that drove residents to a procedural meeting that had no public comment. There was no opportunity for anyone to learn any information on that topic or even speak. Also, papers like this one were placed in mailboxes directing the same action as that robotext, which is against the FCC, by the way. These were put in mailboxes, including my own, to drive people to the meeting. I was frustrated because I felt that residents had been deceived. How unfortunate that residents haven't been given the opportunity to understand what the process is. So I was frustrated. I was also frustrated because our planning board volunteers are merely that. And driving a large group of people potentially made them feel pressure, and that made me sad. So that's why my comments were what they were, because I was sad for our residents for being deceived and for the potential impact and negative feelings on our planning board volunteers. I also need to note that I requested the posting of the 10-page mayor's newsletter, this, on December the 16th. It's a document that has a lot of detail about what's the process, what is this, why did we even consider this, what was the timeline? Because I saw a lot of misinformation being shared. So I spent 3 days creating this in the spirit of full transparency. Okay? I learned the next morning, after I asked it to be issued as the mayor's newsletter, which that's what it's titled, I was informed that the document was going to be removed. A straw poll was taken amongst the township committee members, and 3 people voted to take it down. I was informed the document was removed. I don't know why. It was reviewed by numerous employees, experts with the film commission, as well as the legal review. This is all fact-checked, and everything is documented, and nothing is false or misleading. So unfortunately, no information has been able to be shared with you. So how can you react to a concept that you know nothing about? And I just want to share, for those residents who have opened my emails, I'm really excited for you to read them, because you're going to see they corroborate everything in this document, and you're going to see I have nothing to hide. Absolutely nothing. So now that I've laid out the historical timeline, I want to explain to you why I urged this process to move forward and why it had to be in December, okay? First, the longer it takes for the town to review the proposal, the less likely it is to move forward. Why is that? Because for the idea, this concept, which we don't even know if we want or not, for it to become any reality, it has to go through 3 steps. Step 1 is the overlay zoning ordinance process that is done at the Township Committee. That's what we just tried to do. Introduction, planning board consistency, back to Township Committee for public hearing, deliberation, and vote. That's step 1. Step 2 is preliminary and final site approval process via the planning board. That's a very thorough process that's going to take months with all types of public hearings, documentation, studies that have to be completed, environmental studies, for instance, traffic studies, all of the things that you're asking for us to know now, that goes in the planning board process, not this. Third, for any of this to happen, the developer, which happens to be a developer, builder, owner, operator, they need to seek a film lease partner designation via the NJEDA. We learned that step 3, the designation from the NJEDA, is a highly competitive process with only 2 of 3 available slots remaining. If the township steps cannot be initiated as soon as possible, we've been cautioned that the remaining 2 designations may be awarded to other projects in 2025. So if we don't seriously look into this, consider it, move it through our process, the planning board ultimately would decide, does this get built or not the Township Committee. Then it wouldn't exist. So let me just also give you some more detail. We are aware that there are at least two studio projects that are considering the film lease partner designation. One of those is the Carteret Stages Film Studio project. It was announced in April of 2024. The title was Carteret Scores Blockbuster Hit with $4.7 million Film Studio Grant from New Jersey Economic Development Authority for Infrastructure Support. So that potential film studio is interested in that film designation. And they received $4.7 million of infrastructure support, of which, if our community would consider, concerns related to the roads, intersections, there could be, as I share in the document, there possibly could be state funding just as this was awarded. So that's one option. The other one that we know of is the Matrix development in West Orange. So those are 2 opportunities that are vying for 2 slots. So this developer wants to try to say, is there any chance that we could get one of those slots? It's possible, but if we don't consider this in a timely fashion, that EDA designation won't be there in the end. So if we don't thoughtfully and timely review, is this something that we want? It won't be there. I wanted to ensure that the public had an opportunity to comment on the proposal. That's what I've been working for. Had the consistency review not been tabled at the December 17th planning board meeting, it would have been reviewed at this meeting with time dedicated for full information to be shared and public comment. I want to hear both sides, pros and cons, because everyone should have a chance to hear their views. It was never my goal to have this concept move forward without the public weighing in. I still don't know if this is a concept that is congruent with our community. We still don't have full information. especially now after hearing comments today, I fear that there's a real possibility that this proposal will not be added to the agenda in January 2025. Ultimately, the decision to do this will come down to the new mayor. And while I'm certain that the two township committee members who December the 10th said that they just needed more time, their actions have led me to believe that they have no intention of adding this to the agenda and therefore actually considering this economic development opportunity. And I just really want to be clear, despite what's been insinuated by numerous people, I don't have any ulterior motives with this particular proposal or if it moves forward. I simply thought it was an interesting and unique idea, and I thought it should be brought to the attention of the town. Some of the benefits include property tax revenue. That benefits every single resident who pays taxes. And while it's been noted that it's perceived to be a small amount, that same data showed that it would be the second highest rateable in our community, behind only Verizon. And as an example, the benefit to the Board of Ed, because there is no pilot, the potential revenue, if that film studio generated $400 million in sales, it could equate to approximately $600,000 to $1 million extra to the Board of Ed budget, with no additional children. Also, from a ratables perspective, our community really needs to be thoughtful about economic development. If not this, we still need ratables. From 1989 to 2023, there's been a loss of 24% of commercial ratables. What does that mean? That means that us as residents, because businesses have left our community, we as residents are paying more of the share of the taxes, the property taxes. Why is that? What are we proactively doing to get industries into our community to lessen that burden for everyone, not just people near a particular complex? Second, affordable housing credits. 2025, we have to make a binding resolution accepting our number or accepting a number from the state at our January 28th meeting. So it's real, guys. It's coming. And the number that we have been assigned is 218. I just want to say I'm very proud of the work that the subcommittee has done to mitigate that number. But despite those efforts, the number still is above zero. So when those communities, when we do not have a final plan, we do not. Not everybody has even had meetings with our Mount Laurel expert planner yet. So a plan does not exist. We have important decisions to make. So if it's not this community that's going to be upset, when we actually share which communities are affected by whatever we accept in, they will be upset. And none of the opportunities that we are considering provide housing for up to 16 adults with IDD in a work-life environment. None. This also offers employment and education and also a community center. Before we can honestly decide if this is a good idea, we need information. We need a revised concept plan, and we actually need a public hearing. So it's really my sincere request for that information to be shared and to allow for an informed decision. The issues that this concept potentially addresses, they still exist. We may decide that this is not the right option, and that's okay. But these problems still exist. The loss of commercial ratables with the burden on the residents. Affordable housing obligations, those are real. None of the proposals we have also potentially affect 1/2 of the mile from an interstate with 12 residents near 200 feet. Lastly, despite it's not a question of the land that Verizon owns. It's not a question of if it will be developed. The question is when and how. It is their land. They are a private business. And as I had to sit through a developer presentation for something they were interested in, I was shown a high-density housing option and a office building. So despite how things have been portrayed, I'm simply was trying to bring a proposal to the public in a transparent way. And all of my efforts have been done with appropriate protocols and included all members of the Township Committee at every step. So with that, I am going to thank each and every one of you for coming in. And I am heartened that a potential side product of this is that we've raised the awareness of the needs of our special needs community. And if people have a few $1 million laying around where they can buy land in our town, where we can then find a developer that's going to put in that housing, I'd love to see it. With that, Christy, may we move on? This is under fire and rescue appointment, please.
Resolution 2024-469, appointment to membership in Township of Bernards, volunteer first aid squad of the Basking Ridge Fire Company, number 1, Jamie Ryan, full member.
May I have a motion, please?
I move that Resolution 2024-0469, the appointment of Jamie Ryan, full member.
Second.
Christy, roll call, please.
Mr. Baumann?
Yes.
Ms. Duarte McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Fields?
Yes.
Mr. McNally?
Yes.
Mayor Acey?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. That brings us to 13A, unfinished business.
Ordinance 2567, an ordinance of the Township of Bernards, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, amending, revising, and supplementing the code of the Township of Bernards, Chapter 21, Land Development, regarding the uses permitted in the E2 and E4 office zones. And this is a public hearing.
I'm going to open the public hearing and welcome comments.
My name is Bruce Schundler from 1114 Fellowship Road, Basking Ridge. For the legal record, I'd like to add to my comments from the December 10th meeting. First, I believe the changes in our zoning ordinance as proposed in Ordinance 2567 are totally consistent with our master plan of 2023, and also with the previous master plans of 1982, 1990, 2003, and 2010. In fact, the inclusion of light manufacturing in our township's zoning ordinance, something created in the early 1960s, has been totally inconsistent with our current master plans. Among the reasons for my urging for the passage of this amendment is that the E2 zone is surrounded by some of the most densely developed sections of our township. A glance at our township's zoning map proves my point. There's nowhere else in the township where there are more homes per acre than in the hills, and nowhere in the township where there is a community like Fellowship Village, where it has 254 independent living apartments and homes, 92 assisted living and memory care apartments, and 67 skilled nursing rooms. The skilled nursing section essentially functions as a hospital. Considering all the allowable uses within the 5 E zones of our township, as highlighted by the township's attorney on December 10th, an elimination of light manufacturing could almost be considered a de minimis change. To be sure, the proposed amendment is only limiting one allowable use among the other 19 possible industrial uses. Simply stated, this change in our zoning should have been passed decades ago. Its continued inclusion in our zoning ordinance was just an oversight and a mistake, and what we are now doing is long overdue, but greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Donald Berlin. I'm an attorney. I represent the Council of Residents at Fellowship Village. I'm also a resident of Fellowship. I live at 7106 Fellowship Road in the Zion cluster, and that cluster is the cluster that's closest to Allen Road. At the December 10th meeting, Council for Signature Acquisitions noted 3 reasons why they oppose this application: to amend the zoning code so that light manufacturing is not a permitted use in these zones. As I said, the notice of the meeting issue is now moot. We don't agree there was a problem, but counsel in his infinite wisdom suggested that we continue the hearing to today. That was done, and that issue is now moot. The second one was indicating that the proposal was politically motivated. Keep in mind that this hearing is not an appeal from the Board of Adjustment's denial of the variances concerning 150 Allen. This objection is not supported by any facts. It does not even rise to the level of a net opinion. A net opinion is an opinion that is not backed by facts. Not one member of this committee has indicated that their vote on November 26 was caused by political pressure, nor was Signature Acquisition, has Signature Acquisition pointed out any specific incidents of political pressure. This decision is an example of this committee exercising good government, which is its duty. You have listened to the residents. 70 testified at the Board of Adjustment meeting in opposition to light manufacturing and explained why. Signs throughout our township in opposition. You've listened to that. Editorial letters to the editor in the various newspapers explaining why light manufacturing is not for the residential area, and they explained why. An expert witness, Donna Holmquist, at the Board of Adjustment meeting, testified why light manufacturing is not proper because it is in a residential area, and she explained further why. Now, we are united in this. The residents of Fellowship, the residents of Allen Road, the residents of the Hills, the residents of Mount Airy Road. No one has come forward to indicate that a light manufacturing facility is good planning in this residential area and will be a benefit to the community. You are aware of these things. You are aware that this zoning code was passed, has been in existence since the 1960s, and the area has changed. Since then, there's Fellowship Village, there's the Hills, and there's other residential areas. The Township Committee always has an obligation to amend zoning ordinances to reflect changes in the township and to do what is best in the interest of the community. If signature means that political pressure is because the committee is listening to the residents, that is what good government does, and that is your obligation. Lastly, signature argues that the action of the committee is arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable, and that it violates the master code. There is nothing in the master code that requires the township to have light manufacturing facility. As your council has pointed out, There is a great variety of facilities in this township, and that's what the master code requires, that we have a variety of facilities. It doesn't say manufacturing or light manufacturing. I bring to your attention parts of the master plan that developers of light manufacturing should consider. First, objectives. Control and calm traffic in town. General objectives. Ensure development does not conflict with development and general welfare of neighboring municipalities. There are others that I can make. Can I just point one more thing out to you?
One thing.
All right. Signature Acquisition speaks out of both sides of their mouth. At the Board of Adjustment hearing, they argued that the portions of the zoning code involving parking were antiquated and should be changed because of the fact that they're antiquated. Well, we allege here that the portion of the code allowing light manufacturing is antiquated, and for the good of the community, it should be changed, and your amendments to the code should be adopted on the second hearing tonight, and we thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry Nelson, 195 Smoke Rise Road. I wasn't actually planning on speaking on this topic tonight because I did speak at the public hearing when this started on December 10th, so you guys already know I support this ordinance wholeheartedly. However, the gentleman from Steel Spout, I just wanted to say, as somebody who strongly opposed that other project, you've been a great neighbor, and there's no issue. Yours was actually an example of what could be reasonable with, you know, I don't think I've ever seen a truck pull in or out of your parking lot. It's never been a problem for our town, so I do hope you guys are able to make sure he's able to keep running his business. I feel like you can. And then one other note, the notion that this attorney has said that somehow they're being politically targeted or this is somehow inappropriate. Mr. Bilardo, I hope you have time to watch all those hours of zoning board meetings I sat through and pay particular attention to when their expert planner repeatedly tells residents who are asking why would you do this close to this many houses based on an ordinance that was passed 40 plus years ago. And he repeatedly said, it's the governing body's job to update our ordinances if it's appropriate. And that is what you all are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Harvey Gerhard. I'm 416 Mount Road. I really wasn't planning on piling on, but I wasn't planning to say anything. But I would point out that if you want to talk about unity, look at what the residents of our town did when it came to this development over on Allen Road. The residents of our community took it upon themselves to dissect out the plans. They found the plans to be, in many cases, disingenuous. The plans were wrong in many respects. The traffic report was idiotic. The Board of Education even came out and said it was idiotic. So I would ask the board to change the zoning ordinances to reflect that. And if you want to talk about unity, that was where you saw community unity, just like you're seeing community now. So once again, didn't plan on piling on, but I thought I'd have to. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Ranganathan Gurumurthy. Thank you for introducing this ordinance. I think it's been a long time coming. Light manufacturing in this area is completely anachronistic, given the densely populated areas. And also, even if Signature had decided not to exceed the FAR requirements, given the IT statistics, my analysis indicates that even without that, you'd have huge amount of traffic, truck traffic in the area, and that will simply not work in such a densely populated area where you have Fellowship Village as well as the hills communities, etc. So I really applaud the committee for introducing this ordinance, and it should go ahead, and light manufacturing should be removed from these zones. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, can you state your address for the record?
It's 66 Liberty Ridge Road.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We'll wait for you. Take your time.
Just wanted to comment briefly that we were at that for 2 years of these meetings. So be careful when you enter into another project. But in any event, I'm Ellen Pinson from 99 Allen Road, and I was born and raised, I was born in 1947, so I think I have the record for longevity here. But I just want to say that I totally agree. I'm so happy to see Seal Spout here. It's been wonderful. Everybody agrees. We've never seen a tractor trailer go out of there. I know they have one sometimes, but it's really quiet. But that's really not the issue. I think the change, I remember 1962. I was at Ridge High then, and my dad sent me to one meeting to protest the zoning there, the E2 zoning in our area, because there's several reasons why it was not maybe the best idea, including the fact that this is a serious wetlands area. This is a serious environmentally area I'm right in the middle, 99 Allen Road, between the hills, which huge wasn't there, and Fellowship Village wasn't there. But what has been there is serious flooding. I can remember when the hotel went in, they just had poured the basement, the concrete slab, and it was way covered with water. And the people from Coach, is that it, the insurance company, the fellow there showed me the high water mark, ridiculously, like 15 feet high or something on the building. So also my farm, what's left of the farm, is bisected by the Dead River. And we have a huge wetland area, wetland setback, and many, many animals and wonderful, like I say, we occasionally see a heron come in and land. Plenty of, hate to say it, bears even. So that's part of what's in between these two densely residential areas. So that I think that this, and the problem is that it set this proposal from Signature, they went way over the FAR. There's a low 15% FAR in this zone, and that I think was in respect to the fact that it is an environment. Even though 78 came through where it came through, but the wetlands were still there. So that I think that's another aspect of why I approve, and we're all glad to see this come forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry with my appearance. It's very cold here. Yasmin Azizi, 22 Raritan Place, Basking Ridge. During all these meetings, when they asked the traffic expert whether he did the study from Somerville Road to Allen Road, he said he didn't do that. So he didn't have any knowledge of all the homes being in the hills and all the schools. So whatever the traffic expert said, it wasn't accurate and it wasn't done right. So that would be nice if you can eliminate the light manufacturing from all three properties or everything in Basking Ridge. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So, Anand Rai, 1 Carnegie Place. So, thank you all in advance for closing this chapter forever today. I hope that happens. That I wasn't planning to say, but thank you in advance.
Thank you.
Tyler Stein, Riverside Drive. Not here to redo signature. That's done. That has nothing to do with this ordinance right now. Ordinance is the change of the zoning. I think we're cutting our nose in spite of our face by doing away with the light manufacturing there. The zoning board did its job. It looked at the application. It came back. It said, we think it's too large. The FAR, it's too much. And that's it. They can always come back and redo it and bring a smaller project in. That would be fine. Well, by removing this light manufacturing, you're really killing this guy, Hank, I think, is at 50 Allen Road. If he ever has to sell his property, how's he going to sell his property, which is a manufacturing? Because you just cut his legs out from underneath him. I think you should just keep it the way it is. Let the zoning board do its job. They've been doing their job. They've been doing a good job. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm not seeing any movement. Ready to close? Okay, I'm going to close public hearing. May I have a motion?
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 2567, having been reviewed by the planning board on December 3rd, 2024, and found consistent with the township master plan and rolled over from the township committee meeting held on December 10th, 2024, be adopted and advertised as required by law.
Second.
Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Baumann?
Yes.
Ms. Duarte McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Fields?
Yes.
Mr. McNally?
Yes.
Mayor AC?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next, please.
Ordinance 2568, an ordinance of the Township of Bernards, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, amending, revising, and supplementing the code of the Township of Bernards, Chapter 21, revised land use ordinances to create a film studio and a community campus overlay zone within the R1 zone.
All right, and I'll step in here. As noted on the agenda, and I'm just going to read this into the record, please be advised that ordinance 2568 was referred to the planning board by the township committee on December 11, 2024 for review, and has been tabled by the planning board at their December 17, 2024 meeting. Pursuant to NJSA 4055 capital D-26, the planning board has a 35-day period in which to transmit its report and any recommendations on the zoning ordinance back to the township committee. No reporting recommendations were transmitted to the township committee. As a result, no public hearing or action on this ordinance will take place at this meeting on December 23, 2024, because same is not legally allowed.
Thank you. Moving on to new business and the consent agenda. The items listed within the consent agenda portion of the meeting have been referred to the Township Committee for reading and study, are posted on the agenda on the website, and are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion of the Township Committee with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is required, the item may be removed from the agenda by Township Committee action and placed on the regular agenda under new business. Would anyone like an item removed from the consent agenda? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Christie, roll call, please.
Mr. Baumann?
Yes.
Ms. Duarte McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Fields?
Yes.
Mr. McNally?
Yes.
Mayor AC?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. That brings us to approval of minutes.
December 10th, 2024 open session minutes and December 10th, 2024 closed session minutes.
May I have a motion, please?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Christie, do we have executive session?
None further this evening, Mayor.
Then that brings us to adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.